And it's intercepted. It's intercepted by number 22. That's Clifton. He's got the left edge. Turns on the Jets. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Calaveras. What a play. Up to a running back. That's Ferrante over to the right side. He comes back up the middle. He's got room. One man to beat. He turns on the Jets. There he goes. Touchdown, Calaveras. What a play.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Football with Coach Val. I'm your host, Gil Valtierra, the voice of Calaveras Football. This episode, we dive into a new topic, which is football, the ultimate team sport and educator. And I cannot be more excited to have two current members of the Calaveras Unified School District Board, Mr. Matt Brock and Mr. Bryan Porath. Matt, Bryan, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Great. So, Matt, Bryan, let's provide some background for our listeners. Matt, why don't you start us off? Tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so we'll start where I was born. I'm born in San Andreas at Mark Twain Hospital, and the story I tell is Dr. Marshall, when he delivered me, he was smoking a cigarette, which is apparently very common for people that were delivered by Dr. Marshall back in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's...
So what kind do you smoke now?
Well, it just depends. Usually Marlboro Reds, of course. But no, that's how I came into the world. Right there in San Andreas, up the road a little ways. What's interesting for me, and I think it provides a little different perspective on the Calaveras sports and school and culture, is I did attend Calaveras schools through third grade, and then I moved to the Bay Area, 1984 through high school, 1992. And so that gave me a perspective of what it was like to live outside the county.
Sure.
And so I went to high school in Walnut Creek at Los Lomas High School, graduated in 92. And then after high school, went to San Jose State University and was looking around to try to settle in the Bay Area. And there were so many things that just didn't fit. It was very expensive and crowded. And so found a place back home in San Andreas, moved back up in around 99. And settled in, and here we are. For work, what I do is I'm a professional firefighter for the city of San Jose, going on 18, 19 years now. And that's currently where I'm working. I have a few more years to go till I retire, and then I can forget about the Bay Area altogether.
Wow. Well, good for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service for doing all of that and putting yourselves on the line for a lot of people. We appreciate that. Bryan, how about you?
Yeah, well, I was born in San Diego. Very, very early on, moved up here to Calaveras County. All my schooling has been through Calaveras County, through this, the school district here. On my father's side, my kids are now third generation, so I was second generation when I went through. I played football for Calaveras High School, class of 92, played all 4 years. As far as my professional side, my career, I was a managing partner for Chili's restaurants for 26 years. And then just recently, about 5 years now, my wife and I bought and re-imaged a restaurant here in Valley Springs. And that's what we're doing now. So
excellent. I love Chili's, by the way. Did you have a hand in writing that little baby back rib too?
I did not have a hand in writing it, but I was there through the creation of it, and it was a great ride with them.
Very nice. So you played football at Calaveras. Did you play football in high school, man?
I did. I did 1 year at Pop Warner when I was in eighth grade, and we had a great coach. We went to state and, very successful. And then through high school, played 4 years of high school at Los Lomas High School there in Walnut Creek.
All right, great. So, guys, I know both of you being on the school board during a time where, there's a big budget crisis that's, not a big secret out there in the community. And I know it's not easy, and I'm glad that the board has two intelligent individuals yourselves to tackle the problems. And I know there's going to be some tough decisions, coming forward. But just wanted to preface this whole thing with, we're not here today to try to convince either one of you about, what should be done or what should not be done and that kind of stuff. But rather, we want to share with our listeners how the greatest sport in the world, football, changed my life and the lives of so many others who have played and learned so many great lessons from playing. And I know since both of you have played, you probably would agree with that.
I would definitely agree, Coach. And it's funny is whenever you and I meet up, we always end up talking football, and we get that same grin on our face about the sport because we know how special it is. And I think, you and I were talking when you said the ultimate team sport, and that it just hit home to me because that's how I feel about football and what an impact it had on my life. Being a kid who in the classroom, I was one of those guys looking at the clock, just I needed to get out of the classroom. And for me, where I did my learning for the most part was outside on the football field. And so, yeah, I know I share that with you 100%.
Sure. How about you, Bryan?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've taken away from football, not only personally, but I did coach a little bit, and I was on the youth football program board, is just seeing, what the kids turn into, what they become in life, what, the lessons that they learned on the field and how that carries them in life. My own son playing football, just really, he grew as a leader and an individual. And that's the thing that, that I love the most about this sport is, as a lot of people, I played multiple sports, but there was just nothing like football. The teamwork, the camaraderie, the leadership, the self-confidence. It's an amazing sport.
You bet. Well, I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. I've said for years that football is the ultimate of team sports because in other sports, say like basketball or baseball, one guy can take over a game and completely win the game for him, right? A pitcher can get on that mound and throw a perfect no-hitter, 27 up, 27 down. The outfielders could just sit down and, have one of those drinks with the little, umbrellas in it and relax because the pitcher just took over the game and won the game for his team, right? Basketball, Wilt Chamberlain way back in the day scored like 100 points in a game. So these sports, although team sports, have the capability where one person can just completely take over and say, I got it from here and take over the outcome of the game. Where in football, you can't do that. It takes 11 players working in unison for a common goal to have success. One guy can't play it. Give you a couple examples. Dan Marino, one of the best quarterbacks statistically of all time in the NFL, never won a Super Bowl. Barry Sanders, arguably one of the best running backs ever in the NFL, never won a Super Bowl. Why? The best teams win championships, not the best players. What do you guys think about this?
Well, Coach, I tell you what, I agree with what you said, and I'll even take it a step further. And this is how, when a parent is hesitant to have their kid play football because of, that there's a stigma around football for injuries and things of that nature. What I'll say to them is there's no other sport. You look at soccer, in order to be competitive at soccer, you have to be an elite athlete. You have to be fast with endurance, and you have to be able to run up and down the field. It takes a certain body type, a certain type of athlete, okay? Baseball, fine motor skills. Basketball, fine motor skills. In football, and there's no other sport where you can have a kid with a certain body type and be able to be just as competitive as an elite athlete on the same field, because you need that kid with a certain body type to be able to do his job, which is different than the elite athlete. So there's no other sport like that where you have an extremely diverse set of players on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most beautiful part about football is that you have these the diverse type of kids all working together as a team to be successful. That's the hugest selling point to me. The other thing about baseball, you start out with 300 kids in Little League. You're finally down to 14 kids at varsity, right? Football, you have a 50, sometimes 40, 50 person roster. So you have a lot more chance for somebody to compete, maybe because they're not the most elite athlete out there.
Right.
So to me, that's the most beautiful part about it is diversity, working together, common goal.
It's funny you mentioned that. Just a few weeks ago, we've had defensive coordinator for Calaveras Football, Doug Clark, here, and he was going over the different body types and the different athletic ability that you're looking for on the defensive side of the ball. And you couldn't be more right. You know, some of the bigger guys need to be up front. Some of the smaller, faster guys need to be more away from the ball where they're better in space. So that diversity amongst athletic ability, but all on the same team, I think you nailed it right there. What do you think, Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought diversity and inclusion?
Oh, in football.
Right? To kind of piggyback a little bit about what you were saying with, great, you can have amazing athletes, but in football, it takes a team, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we have two decent examples. One really good example of that, right on our home field. 2 years ago, we had Braden Orlandi, amazing, phenomenal running back,
great player,
athlete, overall athlete. But the team was young. The coaching was new, and it was a struggle that year. Right. And Braden tried everything he could. And as we've already established, one person can't make the difference. Another example of that for Calaveras, I think the year you'll probably know better than me. I don't know if it was 2010, 2012, when we lost that game to Escalon.
2010,
yeah.
And the day was going good, but no, okay.
But you had probably more than one really phenomenal athlete on that team. I mean, obviously we made it really, really far, mm-hmm. but Monty Wilson, is a name that always sticks out for me. And they went really, really far, just didn't quite get that championship, right? Like we were talking about before.
Right.
So
phenomenal athlete, but he was on a team filled with phenomenal athletes. It was an amazing team that year.
Right.
Should have won the section title that game. Another aspect of football being the ultimate team sport is what it does to a young man mentally when he finally realizes that everything he does is not for himself, but it's for the team. And then he also realizes that all his teammates, all the efforts of his teammates is for him, and that they're doing this for each other. They're brothers now, right? They have to work their tails off and work with each other. And I think once this concept is realized and it's implemented, amazing results begin to occur from this. What do you guys think starts to happen to a young man when this dynamic finally sinks in? What do you think starts to happen to him?
Well, what I've seen is the when I witnessed it was when you're a couple games in, hopefully if things are going well in the season, you see the athletes start to watch each other's back, and they start to go down the field looking for somebody on the other team to block out, to take out, to hit, so that their brother behind them can advance. And I noticed that once you see that, you know that they're starting to become a team, and they're no longer thinking of each other as other kids in school. They're thinking of each other as a family.
Yeah.
And to me, that's amazing, because a lot of these kids didn't know each other, 6 weeks before that. And I think what it does, in my opinion, is you start to really look out for each other. You are, and sometimes, and this is the nature of the sport, you're putting yourself in harm's way for your teammate and your classmate and your friend. And to me, it's an amazing thing that you can't duplicate in other sports.
You bet. Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really just going to piggyback what you said, probably just add in a few other aspects of it. I mean, absolutely. Number one, I mean, you just yield better results in productivity, right? I mean, once the kids start coming together, you stated they kind of put themselves out there for their teammate. But it fosters, a strong leadership, trust and openness. I mean, that's a big one. You'll see that kid on the team that maybe wasn't accepted early on.
Yeah.
And then come a few games in or mid-season, people are throwing their bodies in front of people for that individual.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same, like, imagine this kid, say, in the summer, that's more introverted. He's not very an outgoing guy. Maybe he's not the biggest popular guy on campus. He comes out for football, And then he suddenly realizes I'm part of something bigger than myself. I'm part of something special, and I don't want to screw this up, and I'm going to work really hard to help this thing out. And then those same teammates reciprocate that same right back to him, and he feels that. Now he's walking around campus with a little bit more pep in his step. Guys are high-fiving him, see you at practice later. And all of a sudden, it's like you got a different kid than that
Builds
summer.
Self-confidence,
Yeah.
right?
Confidence.
Self-confidence. And
100%.
you see that every year, usually with multiple kids. And it kind of goes back to what we said a minute ago. It's such an inclusive sport.
Yeah.
You just can't beat it.
Yeah. So once the team concept is learned, to me, in my opinion, there's a plethora of other lessons that translates perfectly to real life, and it begins organically to occur. So things like setting goals, overcoming adversity, being humble, achieving more as part of a team than individually, camaraderie, leadership, any of those things. Let's grab a couple of those and let's. What are your thoughts on any one of those, Matt? Like any of those pop out at you and go, man, absolutely. And tell us a little bit about that.
I think they all resonate with me. Short-term and long-term goals. What are we going to accomplish in this practice? What are we going to accomplish in this drill? What are we going to accomplish today? How's that going to build towards what's going to bring success on Friday night, right? And then what's going to bring success on Friday night to carry over to next Friday night, and then down the road into the playoffs. Short-term and long-term goals. Learning how to listen to those from your coach, set them, realize them, and then see the results, right? That teaches you how to do that for later in life. When you have an ideal, here's my career, here's what I want to do, I have to do these short-term and long-term goals. Like I said, one play at a time. You start with one play at a time, and then just being completely committed to a point where you're standing there completely absorbing and listening and being the listener, not the kid in class talking. You're sitting there absorbing everything you can from your coach so that you're going to become a better competitor. That's the humble part.
Sure.
Sometimes you have to be a listener and learn and be humble.
I learned humble on the football field by getting completely annihilated by a senior, and I was only a sophomore. And he put me down, and I thought I was pretty good, and I got back up, and I was like, okay, I'm not as good as I think I am, and I learned I got a big slice of humble pie right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's completely true.
Brian, what about you? What sticks out to you?
Well, I got two things, but not to ride the humble train, too much here. But one thing that I see a lot, and I think it really translates down the road when the kids go to college or get into the workforce, is when you watch film. You can have the best athlete on the team make a mistake, and it humbles that individual, and it shows the people around that individual that nobody's perfect. That carries on into life. When you're working side by side with people and someone makes a mistake or falls short of a goal, instead of bad-mouthing them or looking at it through a negative aspect, you really think back to these moments in life where that happened to you, and you can relate to that, a little bit differently. And then finally, I loved how you had the camaraderie and leadership. I mean, those are two of the biggest things that you take away from a team sport like football. I've seen so many of the not only great athletes, but even kids like we talked about earlier that they finally found a sport where they were included. Mm-hmm. You see them later on in whatever they do best, whether it's FFA or even I saw a kid in welding class, just take more pride in what they're doing and everything that they find joy in life in doing. So
I love to me, the adversity part is, okay, I learned humble by getting my butt whooped. The adversity part was I had to get up and do it again. Right.
Yeah.
And when you learn how to get back up and just keep going, I might not know it at that time. I might be complaining about, I got a hip pointer and my body hurts and that guy just whooped my butt. But I'm getting some muscle memory for later in life that I'm not going to be somebody that gives up very easily. I'm going to keep getting back up no matter what you throw at me.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important aspect of life that a lot of these young men take with them. So whether or not, the wife starts bickering and they get in his first big argument with the wife, hey, he's gonna get back up again. He's gonna be all right. Whether it's an argument with the boss, whatever it may be, he's going to remember. He knows how to get through stuff like that, right?
Well,
right. And sorry to interrupt you, Brian. As far as dealing with injuries, right? When I was in my freshman year, I broke my hip in football, and I mean, I had no idea about any type of depression before that, but it took an effect. It took a toll, and you can see it. I see the kids on the sidelines who are injured for the season. You can see I've been there with them.
oh, both our sons.
Both of our sons,
been
yeah,
injured,
broken
yeah.
bones,
Right.
And but hey, you have the next season, right? And then you realize that injury, that state of mind that was terrible, it was temporary, and you're right back at it next season, better than you were before. And that's adversity to me, right? Because
Definitely.
I see it in my employment. Guys get hurt at work, and you check on them because it's a tough time for them, but they're going to come back. And, that's how you learn to deal with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for me personally, football changed my life. And the way it changed my life, because I fell in love with the game and I wanted to play it so much. But then I realized, wait a minute, I've got to keep my grades up. I got to do good in school if I want to be able to keep playing football to stay eligible. So although, initially I accept that, it's probably not the best reason to want to do good in school, right? Just so I could play football. Probably not the best reason. But what happened was something magical to me, because in that process of, hey, I'm going to do my work just so I could be eligible because I want to play football, something happened. And I started falling in love with learning, reading, the work, the material. Some lights went on during that process of getting educated. Now, initially, I went in for the wrong reason. I just wanted to be here because I want to play on Friday. But in the midst of that process, I fell in love with the learning process. And so after football was over, I kept hard at the books. I was implementing skills learned from football into schoolwork. So things like repetition, right? Football, repetition. Coach, run that play again, right? Run it again, run it again. Geez, ran this play 8 times already. So what do? Math wasn't one of my big strong points. So I get these math quizzes. Teacher takes the red pen to them, right? I'd make copies. I'd white out a copy, make more copies. So now I had blank test, and I would just do them over and over and over. Repetition. Do it again. Reread that paragraph again. I didn't understand what they meant. Read it again. And that repetition, although initially it was a little bit harder work, it sank in. It taught me. And I didn't know anything about repetition until I started playing football, because I did realize that I didn't like running that play 8 times, but it certainly helped me run that play really good. So I started implementing those lessons into schoolwork, and I started thinking, hey, what if I did that with this class? What if I did that with that class? What if I did that with a lot of the things I'm doing? What would happen? So what do you guys think happens when a young man, that light goes on for him and makes those connections?
I think you found your strengths, right? Through that work, you identified your strengths and your abilities, and that turns into confidence. And if I commit myself to this, whatever the problem might be, if I commit myself to solving it, and with the work and the effort and the hustle, here comes success. You learned that, and football was your entry to that, right? And so that becomes confidence, and then you learn, if you put your mind to something in your life, you can do anything you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the biggest takeaways that I had that was similar to your experience was just learning how to channel, my negative feelings in a positive way. Out there on the football field, whether you're running, lines on the field or whatever it is, because somebody messed up on what they were doing, because that happens, right? You're out there and you're doing someone else's punishment with them, right? And I'd be out there, just why does this have to happen this way, and it really allows you to control your emotions and just understand that it is a team sport, that it's more than just about that individual or you, and it just starts building all these life skills that you take on down the road. Football just really builds confidence in people, and it's an amazing sport.
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't know what I'd be doing if I hadn't have learned all of those lessons, and I'm not so sure I would have learned them had I not played football which taught me that, hey, this is what you have to do. Yeah, but that's harder. Well, guess what? There's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
This is the way to get it done.
Yep.
And I'm glad you brought up the negative feeling things, Bryan, because my next thing I wanted to talk about was the other thing I had problems with in school was getting into trouble. I grew up in San Jose, Matt, and in certain areas of San Jose, it was a tough neighborhood.
Correct.
And growing up in a tough neighborhood like that, we were not taught to talk your feelings out. We were taught you handled it with your two fists, right? And so fine and dandy in that atmosphere, not fine and dandy when you get to high school and you can't do that, right? So I used to get in trouble for, putting a guy on his back. Now I'm suspended. Now all this stuff happens. All this negative stuff happens. Start playing football. And now guys are patting me on the back for knocking guys on the ground, right? And I start going, hey, I'm not in trouble. They're high-fiving me. I kind of like this, right? So learning, for me, football also taught me how to harness energy and then apply it where I could be more productive, right? So I'm feeling angry. I got bad news. Mom and dad are separated, or I didn't get that job I wanted. Whatever it is that's creating this anger and this fire in my belly, I need to find a way to release this. Mm-hmm. But I need to find a way to release it that's going to help me be productive, not get in trouble, and then maybe at the end of it, actually maybe help me in some ways. What do you guys think about that?
That's a huge thing for kids, a way for them to deal with everything that goes on in their lives. And at that age, there's so many different concepts and emotions that you're dealing with, and to have an outlet is essential in order to keep that kid on the right track. Be able to put that in a positive way. And then you take one step further with that. You show them the techniques that even if you're a smaller kid, you have your techniques of leverage and body work on how you can use all that energy inside of you to move somebody that might be, a third larger than you. And it's such a good thing for young minds to have that way to put that energy out there. Yeah.
And football, I think, other than other sports, and you might be able to apply it to other sports as well, and just harnessing energy. But there's something about the physicality of the game of football that allows that to be just a little bit more prevalent, I think. What are your thoughts, Bryan?
Well, I'm going to take a little different approach to it. I think that sometimes when kids are joined in football, especially at a youth level, right before they get to the high school, sometimes it's their first social interaction in a group setting like that. So kind of piggybacking what you said, when you laying the guy out and the frustration and the emotions, I think that number one, when people are learning to socially interact in that environment, they're getting, we talked about earlier, the positive reinforcement from the team as time goes on. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot of times it takes these kids that can be of that aggressive mindset and allows them to have like a sounding board through their peers on how to deal with things differently. And I just think it's another tool in life that sets you up for success and allows you to navigate those emotions and those just raw energy inside of you that comes out and it fine tunes everything and kind of finesses the person that you grew up to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I learned, now, I don't have anywhere near that same amount of aggression in me or fire in my belly. And the little bit that I do get, I have other, I read a lot. I have other things and hobbies that I do that help kind of calm the mind and those types of things. And I don't know if I would have learned about those types of mind calming things and, meditation and reading and all of would I have even learned about those types of things had I not been part of a football and being educated and getting that education as a result of me playing football? All of it's kind of like a domino effect, right? Exactly. I start one thing that would create something else, and next thing you know, how did I get here?
Right. Yeah.
Football's the answer. Let's talk a little bit to the horse's mouth. We talked about how we feel a lot of these lessons are learned by football players and our experiences. What do you say we call an ex-Calaveras football player, get him on the line, and we'll put him on the spot, and say, hey, what'd you learn, kid?
Let's do it.
All right. I think we got it.
Hello.
Tanner Josies.
How you doing, Coach?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So, hey, I got Matt Brock here with me. I got Bryan Porath. They are both on the Calaveras Unified School District School Board, and we're doing a podcast talking about the life lessons learned that young men learn when they play the game of football. And, Tanner, what years did you play football at Calaveras?
I graduated in 2018, so 2015
Okay.
would have been in my freshman year.
Okay. So, and then I remember you were when I was on JVs, you were on that undefeated JV team, right?
Yeah, we went 10-0. 10-0. I'll never forget that.
All right. Every time I talk to anybody that's on that team, I always have to mention it, no matter where I'm at. So.
Oh yeah, you got to rub that one in every once in a while.
So Tanner, you played running back, some defensive back. One of my fondest memories of you, I remember we'd run Power O a lot, but when we put you in, we ran that counter play off that Power O action, and you hit it with that back play. Do you remember what it was called?
Oh yeah, it was 7 power or 7 heavy power. What was it?
Strike trap.
Heavy power O. Yeah,
strike trap.
I'd follow the guard.
Yeah, he'd follow the guard and he'd come off his block and he'd just go for so many yards off pretty soon he's like, Coach, that's my play. He's like, that's the play right there. Well, hey Tanner,
set it up every time.
So hey, tell us a little bit about lessons you feel you learned while you were playing football at Calaveras High School that you still think you use today in your normal life.
Yeah, so I have a really good example. I mean, with the work I do now, I work for Cal Fire, and I always look back at it, and it's like a perfect example of a football team, right? So with a firefighter, right, you have to rely on others, and you have to work together to accomplish the same goal that everybody's trying to do. With that being said, like there's a group of us, say 4 of us on an engine. We're a team. We're working towards the same. To try and get the fire out, just try and go up the hill. And that's something big that I've learned with high school football is teamwork. If you're all going for the same common goal, you're going to have a very, very good outcome. And football, especially Calaveras football, since freshman year all the way to senior year, we've same group of guys. We all been working together since Pop Warner all the way varsity or JV freshman. So we've all got to know each other's, weaknesses and strengths. So it was able to help us out when we got on the field. We were able to know what someone was good at, what someone needed to work on, and we were there to help them out if they made a mistake or, pull our weight if they needed some more pulling. So I think that's a good example for something that I do for my profession. Like teamwork is very important. And I think that helped me a lot for my job.
Wow, I think that's a fantastic example. One of the things we've been talking about here is that, we've called football the ultimate of all team sports, and that team concept and what it means. And for you to bring up team right off the bat, I think that resonated well with you. What about any like adversity? Anything, you don't have to get into any specifics, but anything where you had to say, "Oh man, I'll get through this," because something in football reminded you that, hey, you got to keep it pushing.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like even like at long days of practice, like long off-season workouts, you're like, really, man, is this really for me? And you're looking around at your teammates, and they're all there with you. And it's just like, we could do it. We could be out there on Friday winning games, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it sucks during the moment, but we'll get through it, And I think that comes a lot with especially high school. You got so much other stuff on your plate. You got stuff going on at home. You're trying to figure out work. You're trying to figure out, academics. And when everybody sets forth that goal, I think it really helps for the bigger picture. And the same goes with work, right? If no one's on the same page, everybody's going to have a bad day at work, but you're still there for a reason, and only you can control like how you want the outcome to be.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So I think there's a lot of adversity in the game and football, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be thrown at you, and it's kind of how you're going to respond to it. Like every day was something different. Running wind sprints, up downs. You're like, really, is this for me? And you're looking at your buddy, and he's doing the same thing. You're like, yeah, like it's up to you if you want to quit or not. And I mean, being part of our team, we really didn't have many people that backed out, and they're all there. They're all your brothers, and you're all doing it for the same reason.
So you guys just got stronger.
You got stronger, yeah. I think every day, you're learning different stuff. You're kind of seeing what your team's able to do and what you guys need to work on together. And yeah, I think that had a very strong impact on like our high school football.
Wow. Matt, Bryan, you got anything to ask Tanner while we got him?
Well, Tanner, I remember watching you run that play, standing next to your grandpa, and he was so proud. But being along the same lines as you in the profession, and the teamwork is 100%. If you're at an actual event and you don't have somebody else backing you up or doing their job, things can go sideways in a hurry. And, it's not an option. You're out there on the fire line, and you've learned how to be a good teammate and what it takes to be successful. And a lot of that came from your upbringing and you excelling at football, So be safe out there. And thank you for everything you did at Calaveras and everything you're doing now, too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, although I wasn't standing next to your grandfather, I do remember watching you play football as well. I just think it's such a great story to hear, as we've been talking before we gave you a call about all the character building football does. To hear that you took it forward into a career path that really is an ideal example of everything you learned on the football field. It can apply in any job. But anytime you have a career path where you're directly dependent on a team of people, it couldn't be any better. So thanks for sharing your story with us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Tanner, I got nothing but love for you, buddy. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us and for all the work you're doing now. And you keep up the good work, buddy.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So Tanner Josey's ex-Calaveras football player, now working for Cal Fire,
cool.
Doing some great stuff. I think just solidifying a lot of the stuff that we talked about. Matt, Bryan, I can't even imagine where I'd be right now if I didn't have football in my life, especially during such a pivotal time as my adolescent years when you're still trying to figure life out. To me, the world's already a very, tough place with complex problems. But in my opinion, athletics, the arts like music, theater, help not only young people get a well-rounded full education, but also help the world just be a little bit better of a place. What do you guys think?
I couldn't agree more. Like I said earlier, me at the classroom and myself we didn't get along too well. I was always, daydreaming and looking at the clock and just envisioning what I was going to do outside the classroom. And I think that's why it's so important for us to acknowledge that and have all these activities for kids to do. And the ideal place for them is at our high school here. I've been to a few events, a few plays, poetry out loud, and these kids are finding themselves in these programs.
You bet.
They are becoming confident and learning what it takes to be successful, with the extra work. And I'm so proud of our high school for all the things that are offered there. At any time at Calaveras, you can go and you're going to see kids welding. You're going to see kids learning how to become EMTs. You're going to see kids sprouting plants and growing them and eating them, a month later. It's an incredible place.
Very cool.
And growing up and this is, I'll go off the topic a little bit, but growing up in the Bay Area during my high school years, it just wasn't the same. And it's our culture at our high school and our little high school town and community is very special. And these kids have many opportunities to grow and thrive there.
I couldn't agree more, Bryan.
I was going to say very, very similar things. So instead of just mimicking what you said, I'll add something to it. One of the unique things that as a society that we just learned coming out of COVID was that there's a direct correlation in building social skills, discipline, cooperation, and creative thinking with kids being a part of these programs. There's talks that if we were to ever have a quarantine like we did moving forward, that they wouldn't do that with the kids. They would let them still go and be a part of those activities at school and those programs. Mm-hmm. There was not to bring a damper on things, but there was a lot of negative things that came out of keeping kids quarantined at home. So I think it's imperative that we not only allow these things, but encourage these things to further develop the future of our society.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So this last question, guys, I want to make sure I preface this because it could be taken sometimes the wrong way. That a formal education is important. Math, science, English, history, etc. However, being the critical thinker that I am and believing that asking tough questions can lead to higher learning, I have to ask, knowing that many of the lessons that are being learned on the football field that we've discussed here today, is there any other class being offered in the current curriculum within the school district that you think has the same learning outcomes as the ones we discussed today?
I don't think there is. I think athletics in all shapes, has its place and offers these opportunities. For me, it was football. And for most young people that want to play football, I highly encourage it, despite what the parents have heard about the risk. It's worth the risk. The lessons you learn are worth the risk that you take by being on the football field.
Sure.
As great as education is, and the technology we have now and all the programs, to me, that's what helped me be successful in whatever I set my mind to, was that sport, that particular sport.
Right. Me personally, I don't like the term the extracurricular, because it kind of alludes to it's not really needed. It's extra, right? To me, this is a part of the education. It's not extra.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I completely agree with that. Where I think my answer might differ a little bit from Matt's is, so I agree with Matt 100%. But I do personally think that there's some similar skill sets and mindsets and that come from music and drama. And even when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking, there's certain CTE programs that you kind of mentioned, rattled them off in the previous question. Our medical program, the floral, which leads into the crop production. Those are all things that I think you're taking people that don't view themselves as athletes. So they're not going to get it from the football field, but they're getting it from that environment that they feel comfortable in. So I do think that there are some other things there, but I don't know. I mean, to me, football is going to be at the top of that list because it takes not only the mental side of things, which you're going to learn in these other areas I just mentioned, and it adds in the physical component.
Right. Well, I would just say, that I mentioned the arts, theater, music, athletics, that I would ask the powers that be to take off this extracurricular moniker on those types of things. And let's just start calling it what it is. It's a part of the education for our young people in our community. This is a part of their education. It's not adjunct. It's not this extra thing. It's also a part of it. And I think once we start to come to an agreement as to what it is, then maybe the arguments after that would be a little bit more better than if we can't even agree on what we're going to call certain things.
Well, and to piggyback that, something that I was thinking about on the drive here is, when you go to college and you get a degree, I didn't get a 4-year degree, but I did go to some junior college. And I remember having to take like Greek god mythology and music appreciation because it well rounds you, right? And I think that whether this is being called extracurricular or not. You need all this in life to be well-rounded. And that's the part that gets missed. You can't just go to school and learn math, English, and science and be well-rounded.
Right.
And that's proven in our next level education.
Right. Well, just about out of time. Any last words, any comments, anything we talked about here today, guys?
I just want to say thanks for having us and allowing us to share our beliefs and our thoughts on sports at Calaveras, especially football. And thank you for everything you've done over the years too, Coach. You were there a long time, and you impacted a lot of lives over there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thank you both for spending time out of your day. I know you guys have busy schedules to agree to come here and do this. You're a couple of guys, along with Sean Gregorio, that I wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for you guys telling me, hey, you should do this. So thank you for giving me that little extra pat on the back and shove to, hey, get it going. Because I'm having a good time. I'm being able to speak to lots of interesting people. And so, I'm having a good time with that. I would say for those of you, are concerned about football and all that stuff, go and do, I think it's episode 2 with Coach Manny Mosa that we talk about Pop Warner football. And there's some interesting statistics. I think the fear far outweighs what the statistics are actually coming in with. And so take a look at that and when you want to make a good sound decision for your young person if they want to play football or not. So thank you all for listening. Thank you to Matt Brock and Bryan Porath for taking the time out of their busy schedules. Remember, if you have questions you'd like for us to address or have any comments that you'd like for us to air in a future episode, follow us on Instagram at Let's Talk Football with Coach Val, or shoot us an email at gilbertvaltierra@gmail.com. Until next time, we are out.
And it's intercepted. It's intercepted by number 22. That's Clifton. He's got the left edge. Turns on the Jets. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Calaveras. What a play. Up to a running back. That's Ferrante over to the right side. He comes back up the middle. He's got room. One man to beat. He turns on the Jets. There he goes. Touchdown, Calaveras. What a play.